much differently?
Wait a minute, hold on. You're talking about the Cooper Farm people? They're not, nothing forcing.
Cooper, not, they're fine.
They're fine, they're right.
No. comes on here, because he's also doing the FinCom meeting. Here we go. All right, we're set.
Are we in?
Welcome, folks, to tonight's Master Plan Update Steering Committee meeting. Rich, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, welcome again, folks. We'll do a little committee business, minutes, public input. We're going to do a little update on our outreach, how we've been doing there, talk a little about elevator speeches, if anybody's developed them, some of our liaison activities. We're going to be looking at some of the things that Northeastern University may be able to help us with. We're going to have a little bit of a Facebook page demo and how we may try to use Facebook as one method of reaching out to folks. We're going to talk about our next meeting because we're going to have folks from Groton, Boxborough Town Planners and their Master Plan Committee members are going to come visit us. And we had another one, just say it. And Harvard, some folks from Harvard are going to come. And they're going to tell us about their experiences. So that's going to be an exciting meeting next week. We're going to talk a little bit about our member assignments.
Next week or next meeting? Yeah,
Next meeting, excuse me, thank you. We'll talk about the request for proposal, a little bit of a discussion. We're going to talk about the work plan and timeline review that Bonnie so graciously provided for us early on, options for MAPC's role in Metropolitan Area Planning Council, timeline, and then some subcommittee options. And then our next steps, and we'll adjourn following that. But before we get even that far, folks, we are very fortunate this evening. Betty, sitting right here in the front row, has graciously volunteered to be the 12th member. Now, what will happen is Betty's application is in, and as you folks may remember, it's a joint appointment between the Planning Board and the Board of Selectmen. So between the two boards, by about August 20th, so just a little over 5 weeks from now, is we'll be able to have an appointment process where Betty will be able to tell us what's happening. So what I'd like to do, though, is ask you to introduce yourself to the folks and tell us just a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in all of this.
Sure. My name is Betty Lorenzen. I've lived in town for a little over 30 years. We came here from Somerville and Brighton, and we were attracted to the town because we wanted a suburban area, but we also wanted an area that had walkability. We did not want big open, too many open spaces. We like the sidewalks and the ability to walk places and things like that. And I'm recently retired from IBM, and I was at a Council on Aging meeting when Paul was speaking, and I became interested in this because I'd like to make sure that Littleton has what I need in a few years when I, need the services. So I'd like to be part of it.
Thank you.
Nice job, Paul.
Yeah.
It's scaring people away.
Right, exactly. Good job.
Okay, I'm going to take the minutes one at a time. June 9th. Are folks comfortable with offering a motion that we accept?
I move we accept the minutes of June 9th.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve 9 June minutes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Now, how about the 23rd? Did everybody have an opportunity to read the 23rd?
I certainly did. The
Well,
next
if you
one,
can give us a moment,
Certainly can. Okay, go ahead.
I should say, Mary did an excellent job on these minutes.
So I did have to ask for help from somebody who knew the two members from the Economic Development Committee. I didn't know the faces, I knew the names.
Well, it encompassed a lot of data and a lot of numbers and a lot of issues.
It was nice to have a lot of members here from the other committees.
yeah, that was good.
When I started doing the list, I started to understand how many people were really represented here.
That was an excellent group. Maren was referring to last meeting that we had, because we had put out an invitation to the various town boards and committees in town to come on out and participate and help us do some brainstorming. And as Maren has related, we had an excellent turnout. Now, what Rich is referring to on the minutes is Maren does an extensive job. And folks at home, if you don't make it to the meetings, do go online and read the minutes. And you're going to get a good idea of what's going on in these meetings, so that's helpful. Although we'd like to have you here, please. How are we doing, Paul?
doing good.
All set?
What?
Minutes?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I would move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to approve June 23 minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Thanks very much, folks. Okay, public input. Betty, would you like to say anything?
Not yet.
Said it all.
Okay. And Bob, you're going to represent PMBC
Yes.
with us? Oh, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I wasn't at the meeting last night, but I watched it, and it seems like the town is very mixed up as far as the Cooper property goes, which is, it's going to be a tough decision on the board's part.
It shows, and some people talk about priorities in previous committees that had met and spoken about it and had quite a bit of work. Because a lot of folks have put in work over the past years as to help prioritize, at least in people's minds, if not as clearly put down on paper, some folks may like it to be, but certainly there's a feel, and people are going to have different opinions on it. And as I think what Mike stated so much, and it was very eloquent at the beginning of all this, is the master plan is going to help provide that overarching guidance. And that's what's going to come out of this process, so that when things like Cooper property, the Cooper Farm property comes up, or others, there'll be, as I say, that guidance at a broad level that's going to help guide boards. And then also, folks will be able to look through this and say, there's been some thought put behind it. And perhaps they may not like a particular decision that boards may make as time goes by. But hopefully, if we've done a good job with our homework, and when we finally have our company help us out and get a good master plan on the street that's approved by everybody in town, that they feel it's theirs and they work towards it, and then they're going to, hopefully, it's going to be, we'll have a rational viewpoint of it and go like, I don't like it, but I understand how we got there.
Well, we're much different from a lot of the towns around us. We've got a stretch from the Acton line to the Groton line that's almost all agricultural.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to any of the other towns around here, there's no town that's got as much open space. And when it comes to buying open space, I mean, we can't buy from the Acton line to the Groton line with open space. So, I mean, you've got to have a stop someplace, or you've got to have some type of design that's going to give both sides what they're looking for.
To the point that you made relative to what I was trying to say a few weeks ago was, what hopefully will happen is you'll have the framework to move off of when something like that comes up, and you won't have to spend the first third of the process defining what the framework is. That's already been done, and you can just move, and the town will be able to say, hey, we have a framework for how we deal with these situations. Doesn't mean you have to adhere to a letter of, that's not what we're going to do, is tell them exactly what they would need to do in a given circumstance. But hopefully by virtue of having the framework, you can, make the process more efficient, and people come in with the same assumptions and framework to work off of, and then, like you say, we'll make a decision that some will like and some won't, but at least they'll all understand how we got there, and hopefully that'll help the boards and not struggle quite so much with defining what the problem or the issue or the opportunity may be, or how we define it.
And to some extent, it's worth pointing out that as much as it's an outdated, not a perfect document, some of that is in the old master plan too. And I'd just add to the discussion that whether it's for future projects that'll have the benefit of reflecting our master plan work, or whether it's the current issue, it doesn't have to be all or nothing either way, especially on something as big as the stretch of farmland on 2A. Making deals that satisfy both parties is probably a better long-term strategy than saying, we're going all in this one, and then guess what? 6 months later, a more important property comes up and we just can't stomach it. It's better to have a plan.
Last night, Jamie talked about her family working down, she's a third or fourth generation farmer. Well, Danny Pickett, there's no family to move that property down to, so in the end, if he decides he wants to get rid of that property, where does it go? I mean, now you're asking the town to buy property from Shaker Lane all the way to the Common, and that's an awful lot of property.
It's a big bite.
Yes.
This process we're doing right now is so important. I know, because on the planning board, we have, over the past 6 years that I've been on the planning board, we've run into some very, very polarizing issues. This area C, for instance, where the Cooper place is. When we were talking about doing some sort of an overlay there, it drew out a huge amount of people on both sides, because part of the town wanted to see some recreational facilities, indoor sports. And then part of the town wanted to preserve that open space. And we should not, at the planning board, be trying to decide the future of the town piece by piece. We need this overall plan. For instance, down by the train station, there's a whole industrial area south of the train station. 2 years ago, we were looking at putting an overlay down there to create more uses, because that industry is gone, and those buildings are empty, all the way from the MBTA train station up Taylor Street to the old-fashioned train station. Now, if we're going to do something, it should be part of a collective plan for the town, not just that piece this year, this piece that year. And then 2 years ago, we talked about open space, and because that we wanted to incorporate some sort of ability for the Fletchers to do something. But as soon as you talk about open space, that drew out the farmers. They don't want anybody to talk about their land, because they don't want any encumbrances. They don't want any. Right now, they're happy with things the way they are in their land, and don't want us to create zoning that's going to change that. So we have a lot of issues here, and I know myself on the planning board, I would love to have some guidance, and that's what I hope boils out of this, is some overall plan that helps us and gives us that guidance. For instance, well, the last master plan said no residential along 495. Well, a couple of years ago, we had this gal that came into town that wanted to put a kennel on King Street, and it was right against 495 in residential land. Well, if you looked at the master plan, it said no residential uses along 495. So that was a perfect use for that little residential portion. But because there was no overall, well, and there really was, but it wasn't being enforced or used or looked at, we lost a perfectly good use for that piece of property, and which would have been a small business. It would have employed local people and brought some income into the town, a use that we could use, kennel. So we really need, it's time, guidance on the planning board.
That's it, but now what I'd ask too is, as we put more and more thoughts to this, because how often are we going to have people, cornered, if you will, whether it's onesies, twosies, or small groups, where you can go on for 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm doing that transition to the elevator speech here. Is how do you, in a minute or so, when you're just passing somebody, you may see them only for a minute or so before a meeting, for example, some resident at the planning board meeting, next planning board meeting you're at, and you've got 1 minute to speak to that person. How do you say things to them? How do you communicate what we're trying to do? So it's not easy, and frankly, I'd ask, if you haven't done it this way, is you really write it down. It's the best way to do it, and somewhat memorize it. But when you memorize something, and it's all your personal techniques, but when you memorize something, and if you forget that word, that 26th word, words 27 through 100, you've lost them. So, but whatever technique works for you, please use it. But I'd ask that you get that 60 to 90 second speech, so you can bang, 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 and somebody goes, oh yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
The elevator speech concept really does work.
Okay. All right, so we'll keep working at that, and you know best how you're doing there. It's not a speech class. We won't have a quiz on Speech 101 here. How's that?
So we've got a motion on the table and a second. The meeting minutes for the 23rd? Did we pass that?
Yeah, we already
Okay,
voted.
I'm sorry.
No, you did good, though. All right, liaison activities. Melissa, can we start with you? Any progress?
Sure. I focused on Facebook and did not do much on my liaison.
No, that's social media
Apologies.
liaison. That's very good.
Yes,
I'm going to ask you to
that's
talk to that here in a little
what
bit.
I did. Exactly.
Very good.
It's on my to-do list, I promise.
Thank you. Paul?
Well, I'm supposed to be upstairs with the Finance Committee right now, giving them an update, but I'll take care of that. I have talked with Betsy, and I had, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, had conversations with the other two chairs, Board of Health and Board of Appeals, and at some point hope to get those folks in here. And I guess you're looking to talk at a later agenda item, the outside visitors, because I have an update on that too.
Yes.
Not much of them, but all right, that's not what you mean here, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Mike?
After persuading the two groups I was responsible for to come attend the meeting, they did. I did some follow-up, but people are away on vacations.
Yeah.
So I basically spend most of the time in the local neighborhood, practicing elevator talk.
To the planes.
And I'll be happy to report it on some point, but it's not, I can't give anyone advice on how to give a speech, but I can tell you that talking about money, at least in a certain area near the common, does have certain, will strike a chord. So that's one of the things that, and how to articulate that is a different issue entirely.
Well, I think I already spoke about planning board. The only thing I missed was the soaring. So we really need help.
Yeah.
Vacations, both mine and my committee, so I'll keep pushing on it.
Right,
But,
thank you. John?
I've been really flat out.
Because I come from the Department of Defense, we do PowerPoints. And folks may know the term about Army Rangers, and they get a tab, so it's called a Ranger patch. We got something to call in the Department of Defense, it's PowerPoint Ranger. Anyway, so I did put one together, and as Betty mentioned, I did go to the Council on Aging. We've disseminated it through Marint for you all. It's for you to use any way, shape, or form you wish, point of departure, whatever you want. But I suggest, certainly it's helpful, because it helps keep people's attention too. It helps keep you on point as you're speaking to people also on some of these liaison activities.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, sir.
The thing that caught my eye in particular, and maybe we did it and it slid by me, but the implication here is that our relationship with the folks from the state.
MEPC?
Yeah, see, this seemed to indicate that we were going to be actually engaging them.
Well, we may see if that's a prophecy or if it's a failed prophecy.
Yeah,
we'll talk a little bit about it tonight.
Yeah, I'm just concerned because of the fact that they are familiar to many people in town, and I have no opinion yet about one way or the other. It has more to do with expectations.
Okay.
And didn't they already indicate to us through Keith or whomever that, correct me if I'm wrong here, that if they were there, if given a choice between the two, their intention was to apply for the bigger
That's correct.
program and not participate in the other?
That's right.
Okay.
But that if they did participate in the other, they wouldn't bid on.
Right.
on
But I think
the
they'd already
large
made that decision which way they were.
Offered a preference,
Yes.
but not a decision, I would
Okay.
say.
All right.
And when Mark Graciat was here,
They'd be happy to contract with the town to do the work on the RFP.
Knowing that they wouldn't apply for the, okay, so it's still, they'll go either way, but the preference is to do,
and as I recall his comments, he said they checked with the Ethics Commission, and the Ethics Commission actually said you could do both.
yeah.
He said he personally and his staff felt that there was a conflict of interest to do both.
I don't see it so much as an ethical issue, it's just not in the town's best interest.
Okay, we will get to more detailed discussion on that. All right, this Thursday is third Thursday in town. So after this meeting tonight and then tomorrow, you get an opportunity to practice that elevator speech, be out there on the town common for third Thursday and call people in a very polite, kind way, please. But sincerely, go up to people. You know, if you don't know them, especially if you don't know them, introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm the Master Plan Update Steering Committee, and we're in this process. Do you know anything about it? And, you know, get whatever answer comes out and modify as necessary to help inform that person more about the process, okay?
Great, yeah.
Are we equipped, I tried this out, and this seems to be attractive, again, not recommending it to everyone. Are we equipped to deal with influx of emails and other documents instead of people showing up at the meetings, in lieu of showing up at the meetings? Is that, don't want to add more stuff. I mean, I'm not expecting much, but a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I'll put together an email, and I'll check on that, and then the email will go out. And we get some input from the field. Okay.
All right, let's talk about Northeastern, please, Mike.
Yeah, my motive for I didn't look for Northeastern. I went on a search for organizations that had established a reputation and a track record of assisting towns and cities in Massachusetts and nationally in putting together master plans. That was my original search, and I figured a lot of stuff would drop out of that. In the process, I learned a fair amount, for me at least, about what happens across the country when it comes to planning. Most of it wouldn't shock anyone here, but I focused then my attention on Massachusetts, and it turns out I can tell you who does not do very much or not much work that I could get up and say, okay, we ought to invite them in, and that's University of Massachusetts on the western part of the state. Their emphasis is entirely different and not merely irrelevant to us, professionally or otherwise. And then worked my way back into the Eastern Enclave, and after some conversations and the rest, I came across and did some investigation on Northeastern University because they have something called the Dukakis Center for Urban Studies. But actually what it is in fact a group of people, maybe 3 or 4 at the most, that are full-time at Northeastern for this function, and the rest are basically, I'll call them faculty, but they're actually, shall we say, rather experienced business and town planners who've been through the ropes, either have been elected to the position or have worked for people who've been elected to position. The sample work that I used was a piece on Greater Boston housing for 2015, which is a rather thick document, makes our master plan of 2002 look skinny. But I did plow through most of it, mainly because I wanted to find out if there are any ideas there that I could connect up with reality and all the rest. And there were lots of them, and to make a long story short, a lot of them came out of not the bigger group of Northeastern that clusters around the Dukakis Center, but by who they were able to draw in the state to help out not just Boston, but the immediate surroundings. It reached out almost as far as Littleton in their analysis. So I gave them a call, and the way I approached it is that I felt that we were rather unique in the sense, for almost the reason we're sitting here all describing. We're the last of the Mohicans, as it were, when it comes to agricultural land, open land, for many towns in this part of the state, number one. And nationally, we're also very different in the sense that most towns our size, who are looking at what we're looking at with transportation difficulties, the fact that our skilled labor pool is not very large, our income lags the surrounding towns by as much as $10,000 to $15,000 on average per year. You put all that together, and we're sort of fertile ground for what it means in this century for a town to try to get itself going. And they have, I discovered that they have, the first thing they presented to me, I don't know if it's interest to us at all, is they have a rather extensive economic development, shall we say, planning mechanism. And what it amounts to really is a kind of questionnaire review in which they go around to as many people in town, stakeholders, business owners, and all the rest. And they do more than say, well, what do you think about? These are fairly crafted, well thought out questions. They're, shall we say, professional polling done at a very granular level surrounding the topic of economic development. And this was of interest to me because other than the company, I think, that gave Hudson a hand, this is one of the few companies that actually, this is one of the few organizations that had experience in it. So I made a phone call, several phone calls, had some conversations with the one of the associate directors, and the director of the whole operation is a political character, and I describe him that way because that's how I know him, is Barry Bluestone. You probably heard of him. Best way to describe him is as an operative, a political operative. However, he's very
an economist by trade.
Yes, yeah. And he's a very good one, and a very hard-nosed one. And the question that I put to and planned with them is that it would be very interesting if they could assist us through the formation of some sort of grant. In other words, where we are so unique and so different that it's worth helping us for them to learn and for us to learn what it means to move the town along. they found that idea attractive. I didn't try it out in front of you because I was trying to sell them just to come out and give a chat. So if they do come out, do agree to come out, I'm almost positive they're going to ask that all of you take a look at their website, and buried in their website, which I've given to Baron, it's something called, I think, the EDS tool, and it's an economic development thing. It's generic as presented on the website. It, to my eyes, doesn't look all that exciting and informative. However, I did talk to people in Boston and elsewhere, Somerville, Brighton, a few other places who did participate in it, and they found it extremely important. Even if a lot of the data they gave didn't show up in their big report, they found it useful for their own towns and neighborhoods. Whether we would or not, I think depends on what we see and hear.
When we launched the Economic Development Committee a little over a year ago, Keith actually had some contact with them and tried to sell us on engaging them, that very program, EDS. We had other things to do first before we got to that level, but I know he has some level of familiarity with the program. Keith does too. So.
Well, that's why I ran into something rather. Okay. Let me put it this way. Littleton, I'll use the word, sometimes a fresh face works. Okay? And I think that's the best way to put it. I'm not suggesting that Keith shouldn't contact him, but I think, or anything of that sort, I'm more suggesting that they're now looking, if they look at us at all, they're looking at us from a slightly different point of view than hired hands. Okay? Because some of the people who do work for them are quite experienced, quite professional. Any one of them would be qualified to be, for example, a economic development VP or P for a small city or town. Okay, so whether they're justified or not, they're flying up here. I want to get us to fly here. Okay, we may crash and burn. I'd like to invite them out just so that get the collective wisdom. That's what I'm really after tonight. Because it's my enthusiasm is because I want to see if they can actually come up with something clever and creative to get a grant from the feds, for example, or from the state to subsidize whole and part. I don't look to them, by the way. My ambition is rather limited. I'm hot for economic development. I mean, the financial security of the town means a lot to me. So I have to admit that I'm going to focus personally on that. I want to know how sharp they're at.
Interesting. Everybody interested in asking them out here?
So I yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Next meeting, I think we're full with speakers. Now, how about, and it would be, what, August, is it 11th? I don't remember the date. When do we meet?
11th and 25th?
11th and 25th? So how do we look on the 11th to ask them out?
That would work.
That would work?
11th, the 11th, or
25.
Or 25. Okay, I'll do my best.
Do we have anybody else coming on the 25th?
Not that I'm aware
No,
of.
okay, good.
Well, I'm going to try to get Hudson folks at one of those meetings.
Okay.
Well, we're going to try to get that zoning expert from Concord at one of these meetings too.
Yeah, we haven't come to closure there as to what he's offering. What?
Is this all from Northeastern?
What's all from
The
Northeastern?
stuff that you were talking about. The thing I got lost is, who are these people?
Oh, okay. The only ones that I spent any time with is a lot of time on, got on the phone and spent more than 10 minutes with Northeastern. I also talked to the University of Michigan, Minnesota, mainly because they have.
No, the people you're trying to invite.
Oh,
What organization?
the one would be from Northeastern.
Okay, that's what I was
That would be
wondering.
it.
Do you have an office by any chance?
A what?
Do you know what office they are at Northeastern?
At Northeastern,
Or just the Dukakis Center, that's it?
it's just the Dukakis Center.
Okay. That's good enough.
Could you have the website, but you didn't distribute it to the?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Just
Right, easy enough.
Okay.
All right, let's ask you then, you've already made the contact with them,
Yeah.
liaison. Let's shoot for the 11th,
Okay.
primary.
Yeah.
25th is a backup.
Yep.
Find out a homework assignment for us from them, so that we can be prepared when they do come.
Okay.
You know, whether it's just visiting their website and that's it, you know, whatever they suggest.
Okay, yeah, I know where their homework assignment's going to be. On their website, that's what I was referring to, they have they have slides or basically a PDF of slides of their economic development tool, what it's designed to do and not designed to do. That's one of their main obvious public face things that they do.
Okay.
And they'll probably ask us, judging from my conversation, for us to be at least familiar with that.
And then in your further conversations with them, if there's more than that,
Oh, I'll send it along.
get it to
me.
Maren,
I'll
and she'll get it out to us.
I'll get it off. And if they don't want to come because of scheduling, I'll, get back to Maren right away and let her know.
Yeah. That's good.
Is there anyone else here, I'm just curious, anyone else here going outside the confines of,
When we go to ask other towns about their master plan, we will. I haven't talked to Westford yet, but that's the only action I've got right now up my sleeve.
And you can see here, we've got a couple already on the schedule, Boxborough, Harvard, so folks have done that.
no, I'm talking about professional.
Oh,
Well, on the academic level, the UMass Amherst program you mentioned, our own Tim Goddard is a graduate of that program, and
Right.
he maintained contacts with some of those folks, so, and they do a lot of field work. It's graduate student work for some of
Yeah.
their students, that sort of thing, so.
Yeah.
We might want to touch base with him.
Would you want to talk to them, Tim?
Yeah, I can talk to him.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've stayed away from programs that are basically, they use this situation as teaching
We're
moments.
going to lose that quorum, Mike.
I'm not going out the door.
So I'm trying to basically get people who have,
that's
professionals on their
excellent.
staff and won't send us
Right.
their.
As I say, whatever the homework assignment is at first prep,
Yep.
please.
thanks, Mike.
All right, Melissa, would you like to speak to us about the Facebook page?
I would. And Mary, may I borrow your, there's 3 things I want to go through with you guys. One, I just want to do a kind of Facebook 101, and I've done a bit of research for us, so I found some things you'll be interested in. And second, got a little bit of feedback from some other towns on what we received feedback, I should say, on what they have done. I thought that was interesting. And then lastly, some things that we should think about for our Facebook page. So,
This should be up. You want to browse?
yeah. Oh yeah, I'm trying to use my mouse, that's not good. Oh, actually, it probably would. Let's just see. Okay, all right, cool. Okay, just give me 1 second here, we had a little hardware issue. All right, so I realized that Facebook is a relatively common thing now, and so a lot of folks probably have a good understanding about how it works, but I don't think that everyone does. And also, I know there's lots of folks on watching on TV, and so I thought, again, it'd be good to maybe spend a minute just on how it works in general. Okay, so we know, maybe what I can do is we can go to, oh gosh, sorry, Martin. All right, in general, obviously, it's a social media site. It's for people, it's for companies, it's for organizations. It can be for anything. I've seen people create a Facebook page for their cats. You can really, that's not really what it's intended to do, but you can use it for anything. And it's about sharing information, connecting with people, yeah, and kind of growing your network, getting the word out there, that kind of thing. Now, in Facebook, there's a difference between a public and a private page. So the private page you saw when I logged in, that's my personal page that I may choose to connect with people or not. I keep it pretty private, and at the same time, I have a public page, which is my selectment page. And the difference here, there's a lot of differences, but the things that we probably need to know, as a private person, the way you connect with people is you become friends with them or you like pages, right? And then you have to ask people, Paul, will you be my friend, that kind of thing. Public pages aren't like that. They can be open to the public, and you have actually 2 options, and one I think you're going to be real interested in. So one is, if you're a member of Facebook, you just simply like a page. Like you can see here, I've apparently liked my own page, and that way I get my updates that I post in my feed. You can create a public page that is actually accessible to the public, not requiring a login to Facebook. So no matter what, people, and we can actually, I can do a demo of what a public person would see. We can look at that real quick. But no matter what, we could potentially use this, this method as something that anybody has access to. So the cool thing about it, and let's go, so you have kind of two points of view. When you set up a public page, you have the point of view as a viewer, and you have the point of view as an administrator. So let's just look at Paul's Selectman page as a viewer. So I have no administrative rights here, obviously, and let's just talk about what it looks like. I mean, first of all, you have your home page, which, you know, clearly kind of gives you a visual, what's this all about, right? So clearly Paul is, you know, at the town offices. We got the entering Littleton sign. This is a really good setup, actually. A good picture of Paul here. Okay, then he's got his little about over on the left. While we've enjoyed tremendous success these past years, significant challenges await us. Let's work together to address these challenges. And then he's got a link to his website. So right away, you kind of orient yourself. What is this thing all about? And then basically, you create what's called posts. And so the last one, I like this one, that Paul has posted is that Littleton High School is ranked number 13th. Now, within this post, you can include pictures, you can include video, you can include links to other websites, YouTube, whatever you like. It all is kind of embedded in there. And then the public kind of can interact with you by liking things, by liking is just kind of a sign that you like whatever's being posted. You can comment on them and share further. So you can add photos without adding a big, huge post. For example, Paul's really great PowerPoint here. I actually really like this. You did a great job on the slides, just a baseline on what master plan is. We could just post this PowerPoint and say, check out the PowerPoint overview of the master plan update, right? And just attach these slides. You can kind of make it what you want. What else? Now, that's viewing it from the public's point of view. Let's look at what it looks like to be an administrator. And what I've done is I just mocked up a page, which we can delete. It's not been published. No one can see it. Or we can build upon it, whatever you guys want to do. It's just for tonight, really. And we're just being a little slow here. Sorry. Okay.
This gives Google a chance to do their sweeps.
I doubt about it, huh?
Okay, so you know what? I want to show you something else, actually. All right, so I just created this template, and then we need to think about things like, what would it look like? Who would administrator it? And that's the third part of this conversation. So let's hold that. We can maybe come back to that. Oh, my mouse works. Sweet. Okay, I just want to show you something pretty cool from an administrator's perspective. You can basically monitor the effectiveness of what you're posting. So see here, I posted this. This is Talk of the Town, my TV show with LCTV. When I posted this, I can tell 1,340 people were reached. So you can monitor your effectiveness as well. I forget how to do it, that one actually, but there's a whole marketing console that can show you, okay, if you post this time of day or this particular day, you're doing better. So we can get used to when the town is really watching and post during those times to maximize your effectiveness of reach. So that part's pretty cool. I'm sorry, I don't know where I think it's Insights, that's what it is. Yeah. So you can kind of see how you're doing and what types of posts are kind of better than others. You know, it's kind of interesting.
It's
so
crazy.
yeah, it really is.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing because
It's pretty good. That's the 101, I think. You guys have any questions on just the 101? Okay. All right, so Marin, you can have your computer back. And wait, let me log out so you don't go posting like crazy as me here. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's talk about how other towns have used this in their master planning as well as other purposes. So yeah, we just recently were lucky that somebody had sent in this question, someone like us looking for, has anyone else out there used social media? And lots of responses, so I just like cut and paste a few key things. But basically, and I'm looking at the wrong thing, and I'm like, wait, what? That's not right. Okay, so Medfield, they have a website with a weekly newsletter and a Facebook page. They do all three. Town of Dennis, using all forms of social media. They have hundreds of followers across all of them. East Hampton Planning Department, which I thought, the reason why I included that is I thought their page looked really cool. If you want to go and look at that. It's the East Hampton Planning Department. It's, I like the look and feel of it. But they basically raved about it. You know, it's a great resource in informing the public on planning projects, upcoming meetings, funding opportunities, and generally making ourselves, or marketing ourselves in what we do. Local papers follow our page, and then they call for expanded stories once they see it on Facebook. They see that they get the most likes and shares when they're promoting a new infrastructure project. So they're kind of analyzing what their sweet spots are as well. They gave a heads up, and they said, hey, you know, as you go through this, you have to be wary of what they called trolls, and I think there's other things we should be talking about concerns, but that's people that are out there kind of posting negative comments to get attention, and so you want to handle those situations appropriately, so that's something we should think about. Greenfields used it for their master plan, sharing out workshops, related events, media releases, sharing on ideas online. They had a master plan photo contest. Whoever had the most likes got something. I'm not quite sure. But every time a recommended action is implemented, we post about it. It's been a great way to keep the community connected. So, I mean, no one kind of came back and said, oh, it's the worst. You know, it was all really good feedback. And then you can kind of see the next one. That's that East Hampton Planning Department. They have this really cool, like, what's that called? Like technical schema as their main thing, which I thought was neat. But they have good posts that really keep people up to date. And the next one's a Sustainable Greenfield, which also I thought did a good job. So that was the feedback from other towns. So, and I don't know how in-depth you want to get with this, Paul. We could plant the seed and have folks mull it over. We could actually discuss it. But the types of things we need to discuss are administration, who is taking care of this and how, what's its purpose, so we're clear on the scope and how we're using the thing, aesthetics, what should it look like, and then next steps. So.
And I would also just throw in there as a question that needs to be resolved is, since we're a town board and this is a form of communication, we don't want to run afoul of open meeting law violations. So we need some guidance on legally how to.
I'm glad you brought that up, Paul. So I just so happen to have been dealt the social media policy review. So I will, as a part of that, make sure that two things. I mean, you're right about open meeting law, and we adhere to all the policies on social media. So what a good coincidence. So that is a really great point, though.
Other comments?
Wow, I'm speechless.
It's a lot.
We're just over half of us this evening. I would like the other committee members involved too as we go through this, because some of this is going to require divvying out of duties. Like the administrator, you know, that's time. And we want to see how we want to best handle that. You know, we may have a couple who can post, and you know, we go through the policy, and you're dealing that with the selectmen right now for the update on social media policy, which will help guide us on this, I believe.
Absolutely.
And is that at our next meeting, Board of Select meeting?
It may be. I got to get with Nancy to basically shore it up. But I hope to do that next week, actually, Monday or Tuesday, so it very well could be ready.
All right, let's do this. If you folks are okay with that, we see this. Marin's going to disseminate this to the rest of the committee also, so other folks have an opportunity to see this and, you know, catch up a little bit on Melissa's briefing here. And then with the update of the town, the Board of Selectmen's social media policy can help guide us and make sure we don't make some mistakes and missteps here. So what I'd like to do, go ahead.
So the only comment I want to make is that I have some background in doing websites. So if you need another administrator type role, I'm happy to do that. The other thing is we could also think about, I'm comfortable too if we did a blog that would be more open and doesn't require membership. I'm okay. I can help with that too.
This doesn't require membership either. Just to.
It doesn't require any Facebook. I'm sorry. I wasn't
You can
listening to that part.
publish.
Okay. All right.
You can make
All
it
right.
totally
But at the same
public.
time, some people just aren't. You know, they're not going to use Facebook
Yeah.
because of
But the
prejudices.
secondary
Or,
Yeah.
Right. But my point is that we could easily set up a blog and just that almost literally mirrors
Yeah.
the Facebook page, so that
Yeah.
you know. And I know we've talked about using many different methodologies, and if we just start with those two and then branch out as we go, I think we'll be on the right track.
Do you want to do something similar to what Melissa's done this evening, as far as designing the blog?
What I would rather do is just let her run with it, and then when we're ready, we'll just mirror. And you know, before we go live, I can show you what the mirror looks like.
Okay.
So, but it'll be pretty straightforward.
Do we have any idea, we have now, unfortunately, a rough estimate of how many people have access to, quote, the internet. And do we have any idea on how much the town actually uses, quote, social media? I mean, this is not so much, no, we shouldn't do this, or yes. It's just that there's something else going on here that
The schools use it extensively.
Yeah, I would imagine they
We use
would.
Twitter, we have web pages. I don't think we do Facebook pages, but there are blogs for sure, and then web pages and then things like that. So I don't know what the rest of the town
How
is
about the
like.
Council on Aging? Is there much use there?
I'm still new to that, I'm
Okay.
not sure. I know the police department uses it, there's a bunch of Littleton
Yeah, that's
Facebook
true.
pages, 'cause I'm on Facebook all
Water
the time.
department, yeah, Park and Rec.
Yeah, Park and Rec,
yeah.
all those use it.
Yeah, conservation committee.
Council on Aging does a weekly newsletter that gets sent out.
Sent out digitally.
You started a TV show.
I did.
Okay. And it popped up on it's popping up on your Facebook.
It
right?
is.
Right. What did the video show? How much of an impact did it have on your hit on your Facebook?
Oh, well, so I created, that's a different page, so I have a page for my,
That's
so,
all right.
oh, do you mean on my selectman page?
Anyway,
Sorry.
what I'm interested is the relationship between
Yeah.
the hit on the video.
Yeah,
You-
things started to increase, like likes on my selectman page started to increase. Yep.
Okay. What I'm reaching for here
Oh, help me.
is it's fundamental to, if we're going to have a Facebook, spend time, have you spend time, if anyone spend time, I'm hoping that we have a scheme, a propaganda scheme almost, that brings, oh, I got to see what's going on there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, the issue always is any Facebook page or web page is a pull. People pull themselves onto the page.
Yeah, I'm with you.
What you're talking about is, can we push information out so that they come back to look at the page? And that is the trick. That is always the trick, and that can be difficult. That's why Twitter's nice, because Twitter's a push. If you, once you signed up to follow the
You
account.
find the person, yeah.
Once you signed up to follow, it's always a push, and it's not a pull.
I'm suggesting here only, I'm looking for a push.
Right.
To-
And it's a great point,
That's all-
but it is the rub.
The only
That is
way
the
you can
challenge.
there's two ways, you're exactly right, there's two ways you can do it, and what happens is when you're friends with someone, you can see what they do. Oh, Mike liked this master plan update thing, I wonder what that is, and then you go click on it. So you're watching what other people are doing, and that's building a snowball. The other push you can do is like all of us, or administrators, or no, anyone can actually push and go, look at this page, there's a little thing, buttons you can click. Yeah, exactly, share my site, and then it grows that way. But it is tricky, that is the trick,
Yeah, well,
but,
I just like us to see, when I say us, I'm being generic here, I'd like to see us really
A
do this
concentrated
right,
effort.
really
Yeah,
make an
I
effort,
couldn't agree more.
The whole
But the
advertising.
more people who share it, then all of their friends look at, I mean, a lot of the page, I'm sure the same with you, a lot of the pages that I subscribe to on Facebook are from other people in my, circle. So if you get a lot of people in Littleton sharing every post that we put on this page, then other people are gonna go, oh, and they go to the page, and then they like it, and they get it every time you post anything, they get
They're
it on
seeing
their
it.
homepage.
yeah.
Question.
Yes, Bob?
As the administrator, are you able to monitor the posts that are put on there before they become public?
That's a great question. Yes, you can. You can have it set however you like. You can say allow any post, or you can say put it in a queue until I've reviewed it, and then you can publish
Because
it.
the only thing I'd be afraid of is somebody not
Negative.
liking something, and you get slammed
I
every time.
totally agree, and that's something we need to talk about. And it's probably best to put it in an approval queue before it gets
Because I think
posted.
that's where
Mark Levine
one
is
of
the
the other
monitor
sites,
for
that
the
little sites do it.
So that makes sense. Especially probably like the police department. You know?
Is there any, do you know of any local companies that have ads during the Red Sox breaks, during the Red Sox commercials? There's one local, I think it's in Hudson. It's nearby. He's a brake guy. He does
There
brake
have been,
cars.
there have been Littleton companies that
Yeah.
have been on those.
Yeah.
They're just sold through the local cable company.
Right. What I'm asking is, I'm looking for a way to push That way.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's a great idea.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
Is it cost to be on Facebook?
Yeah, totally free.
You're thinking of piggybacking on a...
Free and anyone can
No,
use it.
it doesn't cost money, but it ain't free.
That's true.
There's a lot of administration.
It's time.
Well, let's have-
You spend as much as you like.
One sec, folks,
Sorry.
get multiple
Sorry.
conversations.
Sorry.
All right, would you answer Rich's question, please?
Yes, it is, does not cost money.
Okay. Mike made it very clear that it costs.
It costs a lot of time.
Yeah.
You get so engrossed in it, and time flies by.
Yeah, it's like a good thing,
So,
kind of.
as a warning,
Time management.
Yes.
yeah, you have to have a plan going in. If you don't have a plan going in to Facebook, you're going to get sucked into it because people respond, and next thing you're responding back. Next
And
Mm-hmm.
those cats are so damn cute.
Aren't they though?
And also setup is a lot of time setting it up correctly.
So that's why we will put this an agenda item for our next meeting, to talk a little bit more and actually start looking at assigning folks to do some of these things.
That, or one thing to consider is if you want to push some of that to a consultant, or have that.
Get that
part of the master
opportunity,
plan
too.
consultant. They may mention it as part of one of their plans, so I would imagine that other.
Or at least to get something going, and then to really polish it, excellent, we can make that part of the scope.
Absolutely.
Yeah, now, Mike had a question earlier about how effective it is with other sections in town. And I think Keith has a Twitter account.
It does, and a blog.
And we could check with him to see how effective that is.
But he automatically is in a singular position, that people who want to know what's going on in town, it's an automatic. They go to him, and I want to do something analogous
See,
to
if
that for us.
if we were connected to him, then every time somebody went to him, they could get.
You know who I'm connected to on Twitter? Hear Smart Audio. She tweets.
Megan.
Yeah.
Megan, yeah.
There's a lot of local entities that are busy on Twitter, so you just, follow them, they'll follow you, and then it kind of grows from there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's an easy way to
Right,
do
the
it.
only thing to keep in mind about Twitter is it's fleeting.
Right.
It's only 140 characters.
Right,
Well,
and
plus-
once the
Oh,
message
that's
goes
true.
out, it goes away. Even if it was the most compelling
True.
140 characters in the history of mankind,
Yeah.
in a week, it's more or less
People
gone.
are aware
It's hard to
that
reference
retweet
back.
the same message
Yeah,
daily or
exactly.
weekly or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. It's definitely worthwhile. You just got to understand that it's a little different in terms of
Yeah.
it's
New
a great way to
information
push.
Crowds out old.
It's a great way to push, but you're not gonna, when people come back to look at it, they're not gonna get the context that you're looking for all the time, so you just gotta be careful.
Well, today I'm tweeting the Iranian Prime Minister in hopes that he'll give us a little push.
As long as his message, return message is not nuclear.
The Air Force speaks.
As a sub-agenda item for the Facebook piece, if you will, social media, is I'd like us to think about a subcommittee that might be able to handle that. And that way, something's done on the side, still open meeting, but, without having to worry about having the whole group together all the time.
I'm still in kindergarten.
You're going to graduate fast because we get good education. Okay, Marion, would you just give us a quick little update as far as the folks that are going to come visit us next meeting?
Yep, I got positive responses from the Groton and Boxborough town planners. Both of them are willing to come sit with you at the next meeting. Groton might be able to bring two of her master plan committee members. And we just heard today from Town of Harvard, two of the master plan committee members are willing to come and speak to you as well. If you have any particular questions you're going to want to ask any of them, please get those to me. They want to be a little prepared ahead of time.
Excellent.
So, about the usual Friday deadline, or?
Yeah,
Or-
because we're asking them for 2 weeks and from now, roughly. And we don't want to put a bind on them, give them at least a week. How about, let's say, Monday?
Sure.
If you get any questions that you may have to Marion by Monday, so she can get them out
And Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
on Hudson, the fellow I was trying to track down who had actually helped here in Littleton before, the retired town administrator, I haven't found him, but I went to the Master Plan Committee website for Hudson, and it turns out I know two of the members, a school committee member and the head of the DPW, and also there's a long-term selectman who I know, so I'm hoping to get one or more of those folks to come to one of our August meetings, but I'll work through you and Maren to get that scheduled.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on visitors? All right, member assignments, I don't have anything specific to speak there, you know, what we're trying to do at this point.
Actually, I thought of two things. When I send out requests, I'm not asking you to do something you don't have time for. I'm just hoping to repeat what I've heard here, and when I hear things back, it's wonderful. And then the second thing that came up just the other day, Magic representative. MAPC has subgroups. Our subregion is called the Magic region. The planning board needs to appoint somebody as their representative. None of the planning board members have the time to do that. So they're looking for input on, I thought we'd throw it out there for anybody, and if everybody here interested in planning, thought we'd throw that out.
So you're thinking that planning board, you all wanted to see if anybody from the steering committee might be the representative, the liaison?
Yeah.
The nerve. That takes a lot of nerve, that's all I got to say.
Especially since we
Which
have,
means I'm not doing it.
didn't we have the chairman? Magic?
That's one way to look at it.
Isn't Keith the chairman? Or the president?
Let's see, he's the vice president of MAPC. Magic, he is,
Chairman.
yeah.
Yeah. So our town administrator is already the chairman.
Right, but the town can have two appointees, one appointed by the selectmen, and that's Keith, and then one appointed by the planning board.
Gotcha. All right.
Is there anybody newly retired in the room?
Is there any other information that might help folks who aren't here this evening if we send them a note, you know, as far as whether it's part of our minutes or a little note out to the whole group? Or you think?
I would just send to the websites, and there is a regional coordinator. I can get her name out.
Okay. And then we can see. I mean, we know everybody's busy. All right. Okay, RFP, RFQ discussion update. What I'd like to draw your attention to, please, is the draft work plan timeline that Bonnie had put together for us. Looks a lot like this. Okay, yours?
Oh, there, up there?
Yeah. Yeah, not long enough.
Gives me an excuse to get out.
Thank you. Thanks, Mary.
I'm sorry, I thought I grabbed it. Thanks.
All right, halfway down the page, please retain this schedule for future reference. This is now the future, so we've gone back to the future. How's that?
Awesome.
And I'd like you to look at the dates and the task topic and the outcome. So, I mean, this is not a drop-dead schedule, but it's an excellent schedule as a point of departure at the very least. And I'd like to get your thoughts as to how much we've departed from it, how much we've adhered to it, what may we need to do to get on track if you think we're not on track. So, Bonnie had put out that April through May, organizational meeting with plan, we kind of got there, committee review, planning process, establish roles of participants. Thoughts there? How do you feel, are we being successful in that regard?
I think so.
Okay, so finalized work plan and timeline, I don't know that we've finalized anything,
Right.
it's still somewhat fluid.
Right.
But you feel we're headed in a direction you're comfortable with, as far as that goes?
Yes.
Given that this is now July 14th, and that was for May and June.
Yes.
Okay, so now June into August. Draft RFQ for designer selection, determining project description, fixed fee or fee negotiated, qualifications required, categories of designers, consultants, whether to hold briefing session, when where RFQ available, when submission due to town council review of document. With the outcome being determined designer qualities and the finalized RFQ. All right, so now this is July 14th, and we said we were going to do that in June, July, and August. So we're halfway through that 3-month period. How would you score our success so far in this area?
We're pushing it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty aggressive.
We haven't even begun that.
So
Well,
what-
we've had some discussions about it,
but it's-
you know, enough to familiarize people with alternatives. We haven't, you know, picked an alternative or even really gotten close to picking an alternative. At least we have some ideas of what you know, what the choices are. Probably now, we got to think about do we have enough time left in the 6 weeks to actually make a choice that we're all comfortable with and move forward by, issuing the RFQ by September 1st?
But you see, this is such a big project, an encompassing project that, and I think Paul's been handling the meetings pretty well till, up to now, with having some broad, open discussions up until tonight. Tonight is really where we're down to brass tacks, and that's where we need to continue to head.
I mean, the 6 weeks in general wouldn't necessarily be unattainable in my mind, except for the fact that this particular 6 weeks is a rough 6 weeks because, we're in that summer vacation period, and I don't think we can be as efficient as we might otherwise be able to be. I think Rich's point is right. I think we'd be optimistic to think on any 6 weeks we could do it. Probably slightly overly optimistic, but now it's probably almost impossible just because I know I'm going to be gone at least one meeting or 2 meetings, and
A lot of the input was prospectively getting at the next several meetings from other towns. It should be very valuable before we pull the trigger on too many decisions. So my hunch is, following the old charrette theory, the amount of time it takes to do a project will grow to meet the amount of time allotted to do it.
Yes.
Then if we needed to get it done by that, we had to meet a deadline for some funding reason, we could probably get it done, but why put a gun to our own heads if we're, I'd rather get it done right than get it done within that time.
Let's extend.
But I think we can.
Right. What I'd like to, go ahead, please.
We're going to have a pretty clear idea, unfortunately, as a group, of what we're really asking anyone who helps us prepare the RFQ, right? In other words, we're going to have to know what it is we want to pursue. We almost have to, as it were, lead the person who's helping us, tell us what we need help on.
Yeah.
And I do not have yet the notion from this group that we have set up what we call a list of priorities, unless we're going to have everything as top priority. But there's certain items that require a lot more effort on our part, as well as any consultant who's putting it together to help us do the RFQ.
We did some level of that review early when we were critiquing the other RFQs, but that it's a process that needs to be revisited. I mean, I know I put out on the table things I want to see in there, more creativity, more,
I'm trying to be more specific, and Mr. Chairman, cut it off if you feel we're ambling off into bad territory here. I'm going to just throw this out to test it, and maybe we'll get a response and we'll spit it. I would suggest that one of the key areas that we have to ask the RFQ assistants in is making sure, and the parameters for me are crystal clear, is basically the finances of the town. By that I mean not just our enhancing our financial status as well as sustaining it. And that includes what is prosaically known as economic development. To ask questions not only about the nature of the financial resources that are needed, but also the human resources that may be needed by the town. Has the town grown to the point, or now at the point, just asking a question, where we don't have yet in residence a professional group that can, shall we say, do economic development with a capital E and a capital D? I'm putting these questions, and the reason I'm putting this up top is because I think that the town residents are being frustrated more by the lack of choice. Because we're either going to have a turf, or we're going to have open space, or we're going to have house. I mean, it's always either or, and without realizing that sometimes these things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
We're talking about an integrated plan with reduction of silos.
Yep.
And so I'm for, as it were, putting a priority around economic development, as I'm defining it here broadly, as, shall we say, the organizing feature of our RFQ. Now, there are other topics here, housing that you could put in, and I'm not suggesting for a moment, I think the others are invalid. I'm suggesting as an organizing for us, as a start point, we say we want this RFQ to be very strong, put us in a position where we can get a product out that is very heavily emphasized, very heavily emphasis on sustaining and enhancing the economic status of the town. with the aim of increasing choice.
Here's what I'm going to ask you to do on that, because
Go ahead.
brilliant thinkers have to do brilliant work.
Paul, where are you when I need you?
Hiding.
You're helping us to contain scope.
Yeah.
So that we're not all over the place. Excellent, so I appreciate that. Now, some of the things that are good, because, for example, the housing production plan is done, because there are many plans that become part of the master plan. Doesn't mean the housing production plan doesn't get modified, adjusted, whatever it may be, but at the very least, that's an approved plan right now that the planning board has approved for the town within these last 6 months or so. The open space plan is being worked on right now by the appropriate committees and commissions in town. So those are some things. There is an economic development committee.
Two interim reports have been filed on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So nevertheless, your thoughts are good, but what I'd like you to do is, because there's some people that aren't here tonight, down there half the board, I'd like you to put those down into that paragraph or two that articulates it clearly, so people can chew on it. I offer no critique right now, and that's all I'm asking you to do at this point. And that way, and then we can look at, and then at that point, after we've had that opportunity to digest it, and if we do critique it, that means we have an alternative, if not a clear alternative that's opposite whatever it is, at least something that expands upon it and builds upon it. So otherwise, I don't like it, in my mind, is insufficient. It has to be, here's where I think we can improve upon it, and if we've got it written down, that's going to be very helpful. Because I think you're helping us coalesce a little bit in a general direction.
Okay, so you want me to basically put in paper what I just said?
Pretty much so, yes.
Okay,
please.
good, all right.
You captured my thought excellently.
I'm kidding.
Right.
It's here. All right.
But now, and from some of the comments you said and what I've heard also is, we seem to have made the decision, we indeed want outside help.
Well, that was the point I was just gonna bring up, because I'm not necessarily against that, but I think that if you wanna think about adjusting the timeline and making it realistic, then that's a good decision to make. Obviously, we're not gonna make it tonight because we're not all here, but, because to me, if we're just gonna do it within ourselves and our town resources, then I think we can be a little bit more aggressive then, because if we're gonna go get somebody to get somebody, that's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna take longer,
And that's where
which
I
is
want-
fine,
Yep.
but we just need to be cognizant of that.
We have enough boilerplate models to look at that if we devote energy here, I think the talent in-house is probably there to, you know, at that stage of the game, I'm not so worried about what we'd be losing by not having an outside group help us, as much as I would be in the second phase of it.
Correct.
We
I'm
have-
open either way, but I.
Right.
Yeah.
We've done plenty of RFPs.
Yeah.
RFQs, SOQs. We have a model that we've been using for the town. So all we need to change there or adjust there is the scope of work.
And, you know, when Mike goes and says something as eloquently as he did, whether or not we as a group decide that that's actually gonna be the group's point of view, I think that we have, what are we paying for if we've already got someone as smart as that saying something it's at least worth that much consideration?
We're gonna tell them what they
Hey,
want,
I'm not
and
really
if they
trying
can turn around
to
and
shine
hand
you
us
out, I
back,
really
we'll
mean
go.
it, you know?
The dream's for you tonight.
And to Rich's point, I mean, if we fit that into some stuff we already have, I think we'll be well on our way.
You're right, you know, RFQs are boilerplate for the most part.
Yeah.
Okay, we've all done them, at least most of us have probably in some way, shape, or form. The thing is, in our core specialty, we can bang them out almost like that. This, I would offer, is not our core specialty. When we do something on the PMBC, we know a building. You guys, you know, are professional, I mean, that's your business. So to be able to bang out an RFQ for a new school in town, I know you can bang one of those out in a heartbeat. I'd offer maybe we don't have the skill set to bang one of these out in a heartbeat.
And that's a good point, although maybe what we could do is, rather than engage at the beginning of that process, of developing the RFQ, we engage after we've put some stuff down, so that we're not getting led down the path, or we're getting frustrated by someone trying to lead us down the path from start to finish. You know, maybe we engage somebody when we're, you know, a little bit farther down the process with it, to smooth it out, clean it out, make sure we didn't screw anything up or miss something, or put something in that's entirely inapplicable.
Don't disagree. I'm of the mind personally, we'd be working with somebody doing that.
And Mike's right, because if we do the bulk of the work, we don't need to put this out to bid. We can contract with a consultant we know for under 10 grand.
And you know what? That's a good question for those other towns that are coming in. How did they handle this
Yeah,
situation?
the RFQ, just the RFQ, yeah. But, I mean, the point you made to Mike, which is, hey, great point, write it down, we should all be,
doing that,
you know, that we're all gonna have to do that at some point. Even if we hire a consultant, we're gonna have to write some of that down. We're not gonna be able to just sit here and brainstorm. We're gonna actually have to, you know, so that we can all digest it and organize it and collate it. And
In remembering some of those earlier RFPs that we reviewed, some of what my comment is not so much what to include, what not to include. A lot of those towns are giving wonderful histories of their towns and giving all that demographic. I don't want to give all that information in the RFP to, I want them to be interested enough to go out and dig that stuff themselves. I want to tell them what kind of work we want them to do.
The requirements are pithy.
Yeah.
The PMBC is in the process right now with the library, doing an RFQ for the library. I think it's in draft. I don't think the thing has been completed yet.
All right, I'll be candid with you, I was leaning towards wanting to actually make a decision tonight, I hear what you're saying, so I'm backing off of that. And we'll wait on this a little bit longer, we'll hear the folks next week, so I think that actually is a very good suggestion.
2 weeks, not next week,
2 weeks,
next
thank
meeting.
you, next meeting, thank
Knock it
you.
off.
Next meeting, folks.
This, and to one more point, Paul, this June to August is kind of a very compressed, I would say, schedule for trying to get the RFQ done. But the September to December is kind of a lot of time to do the rest of that work. So put out, advertise, interview, and award. I mean,
Right.
that's 3 months, that's a lot of time.
Again, brilliant ideas require brilliant work. I'm going to ask you to modify this, please.
The schedule,
Yes, please.
be glad to.
Thank you. And offer your suggestions. We have this electronically? I think we do.
I'll get it.
Okay. And then make your suggestions, please. I'd ask, pick a technique, but something so we can see what it was and what you suggested changes to, just so we can have that comparison.
Yeah, easy
I
enough.
don't know if you want to use your choice on which to, don't even suggest it.
I think,
So
as
communicates.
Mr. Chair, I think it's a great idea, and I think it's gonna help us in the long run to revisit that and realign it. I think we'll be, because, as Paul said, you know, we can fill the time, but it would be good to know how we're gonna fill the time. It'll keep us more focused, so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, not, unless you all wanted right now, I don't see a need. Options for MAPC's role at this point?
I'd like a little clarity on that. I mean, we hashed that around earlier. I mean, they, as we understand it, we kind of made it clear that we may engage them on helping us do the RFQ, and that they're also welcome to apply to do the full project, but if they're going to do the first part, they're not going to do, they'll be ineligible to do the
By their own
secondary.
choice.
And it's kind of their choice which way they want to do it. But even before that, we have to decide whether we want to engage them in the first piece. So we might obviate all that by,
Yes.
yeah, okay. Is that kind of where we're at with that?
And the reason I was almost of the mind of, you know, any discussion on it tonight is based on what we just talked about, is that we want to hear how other folks have done it. So we thought maybe we table that one until we hear from
Sure.
I think
Foxborough,
so.
Harvard, and Groton, as to, if they all said, MAPC, best thing since sliced cheese, or we pick this one, best thing since sliced cheese, whatever.
Yeah, if there's another, you know, I have no problem signing them up to help us with the RFP, but that would, you know, take them out of the rest of the process. If these other groups tell us, oh no, the outfit you want to help you write in the RFQ is, you know.
Who doesn't do master plans anyway?
Right, exactly. Then
Then
it's
maybe
all-
we're better off, and MAP, it gives us
And
one
it gives
more
them a
potential
shot
bidder,
at
right?
applying for the
Exactly.
others.
Good
So
point.
you're right, Mr. Chairman, we probably should just wait until we get some of the rest of the stuff sorted out, in my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, come back to something you started talking about, mentioning that I thought was very important for priority setting. You mentioned quite a number of areas that have already been subject to study by the town and do not require, shall we say, extensive re-examination. I won't put housing as a top one, that's tough and tops. Is it the sentiment here that that one would not be subject to, shall we say, extensive, substantive review of its content, and the question will arise on how it gets integrated with the rest of it? Does any?
That's a good question.
I agree with that, and I also think before we get too far down the road, we ought to put the existing master plan up on the computers, kind of flip through it and say what parts of it,
Yeah.
what happened, what didn't happen, what do we like, what's
Yeah.
missing, you know, that whole.
I would say that the possibility is there for what you just suggested, Mike, but obviously, we're not gonna make a decision on that tonight. I think that we all recognize that there are gonna be areas that are gonna require more attention than others for different reasons. Some of it might be that, yes, we've already done a good job as a town, and we just need to plug it into the right slot, and we're good to go. Others of it may be, it's just not as applicable to Littleton as it might be to other communities, so it's just not gonna be that big a focus. And then others of it might be, yeah, it's a huge focus, and we haven't done a good job, so we're really gonna have to, really get our elbows on that one.
There's, I guess, there are many ways, but two broad ways on how you do a plan is there's many pillars. You put the pillars and the roof goes on it, and the master plan is the roof. Another way to look at this too is the roof or the master plan is the base plan.
Right.
And then there are appendices that go, and each appendix now is its own. So let's just say we start with a complete slate. We're just building a new town, and we open the gates to Littleton, and we're going to build a plan for Littleton. And now we come out with that master plan, and that's actually a very thin plan. But then the housing plan that supports that.
Don't they have a video game like that?
Yeah, they
The
do.
little archers and the
Little city is
skeletons.
You wanna do Minecraft?
No,
You got the point, thank you.
Yes.
bakery story is my thing.
We're in the former, I believe, because we've already, first off, we have a master plan to an extent. We're going to be worked.
But we haven't really looked at it.
That's not as thoroughly as you suggest, and you're absolutely right. But we have done a couple other plans, and to your point, and let's just, because the housing one's an easy one, I would offer that whoever we contract out with, part of the scope is you examine the plans that already exist, and then you see what points of departure make sense from these particular plans. And given the scope and the broad guidance that we put as part of this, that if somebody were to come in and say, you've got a great idea on how to do a master plan for the entire town, your housing production plan doesn't support it one bit.
Right.
Go, we need some work then. Or he goes, this is an excellent start, here's some points of departure from that.
What, did anybody notice your economic development plan, your housing plan are complete odds? You know?
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if that's true or not, but, since they all are in different tracks, those kind of contradictions are possible.
Yep. Okay, anything else on section 3 or item number 3 today, which is the RFP discussion? All right, I think we sort of, as we've been talking this evening, talking our next steps as to what we're looking to do in the next couple weeks to next month and a half. So tasks that have come out for sure, Mike, you're going to articulate in writing what you described about economic development. Rich, you're going to look at modifying the timeline for us, please.
Yeah.
You're going to continue, or do you think you need any more work at this point on the Facebook page?
It'd be good to have some more feedback, but I think there's definitely little things that I can do that just, little things. Yeah, I can progress it for sure.
All right, and then you're going to, Mike, you're going to wait to see how the Facebook plays out and then mirror the blog off of it.
Yep.
Does anybody feel talented enough in Twitter that we may want to try and open a Twitter account?
I have one. It's not my strong suit. I'm like, how do I fit it in
What I
one?
want to suggest, because no hands went up like that, is Keith knows how to Twitter well.
Yeah, he could.
And maybe if we have something that after a meeting that we really want to get out, is we give Keith those 140 characters, give or take.
Yeah, he'll know how to hashtag his way right through that.
Which, those 140 characters can contain links too, so you can have
That's,
the Encyclopedia Britannica attached.
Thank you. I can't wait for you to be on the team.
Yeah, let's give Keith something to do, he's not here.
Or I'll speak to
and
Keith.
again, the point being that if we decide later that we want to do more, then we can always,
Yeah.
branch out and.
I mean, the
run.
Twitter thing could be as simple as every, once we find out the optimum time, if everybody's looking at their Twitter thing and Sunday morning, boom, reminder, Tuesday nights, meetings, come on down if you've got an opinion. That might be just yet another vehicle for something as simple as that.
Does Littleton have a town crier? Do we have a town crier?
Keith.
Yeah, that's true.
And Mike, for your consideration, as you mentioned, Kelly, our superintendent, Kelly Clunchy, does tweet extensively.
Yep.
Now, presumably, obviously, it's primarily about schools and education in town. But what this master plan is going to do is contribute mightily to our ability to service the education of the children of
Absolutely.
town. So could you see perhaps co-opting him a little bit?
Sure.
Or at least the school's webpage, it makes sense, because I know the school's webpage is designed
Yep.
for pure academic stuff or educational activities.
No, not necessarily.
Could you see what you think?
Yep, absolutely, not a problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, how am I doing on doling out tasks, folks?
Very well.
Can I ask a off-the-wall question?
Yes, please.
Could someone remind me how many people in town are email and Twitter and Facebook savvy.
Well, what we determined was how many people have internet connection, high-speed
At
internet
least cable
connection.
into the house, yeah.
All right, which was what
That means
percentage
they can
was
watch TV.
it? Right. Well, no, right, right.
Doesn't mean they have it on a
That's it.
And
computer.
what was that number?
It's 90% of the households.
90%.
Of the households are wired.
Oh, so that's almost that's over 8,000 people.
That means
Oh,
that they're.
households.
Households.
Right, so that's,
So it just means, that just means they're turning on their television sets.
yeah.
And/or other electronic
devices.
devices that.
But it doesn't mean they're necessarily buzzing around on.
Correct. There'd really be no way to measure that,
Yeah.
unless you extrapolated it by polling it. It's the only way to do it.
A good start would be anyone with children under 20 in the
Well,
house.
yeah.
You're gonna start.
But that means the kids are doing it. That doesn't necessarily mean the adults follow suit.
Yeah, but a lot.
Because I don't use
yeah.
I don't use my internet at home. I use it at the office. I almost never use it at home.
That's 40%.
No, I read.
Interesting.
I try to not to use it because I'm on it all day.
But still, as we're seeing, and you gave a good demographic, but even we see a lot of the council on aging folks, people at seniors, of course, seniors that fine now is over 60, so some of us qualify,
Yeah.
are using it.
Yeah, a lot of seniors are. I mean, even at the assisted living that I work at, a lot of, and they're people in their 80s. We give them Facebook pages, and they're going to town.
Awesome.
They're posting more pictures than I am.
Yeah, I'm afraid to tell my grandmother how to use it because I think
Oh,
she'd
don't.
take to it in 2 seconds. I already get enough emails. She's figured out
She'd be
email.
stalking you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I can see how they take to it.
So it could be, it sounds like it probably is, a very good means of communication.
Oh, Kimmy, you saw Melissa, 1,300 hits there?
Just by one post.
I think the majority of people, once they get into it, the problem is getting people into it. Like my husband would
Exactly.
never, ever go near a computer. My neighbors never go near it. But then other people, and they're younger than me, they're in their, 40s, and they just have no desire. But
A few years ago, I was on the crematorium study committee. Crematorium would have been a good thing for the town in terms of cash inflow, but we could not get the message out there. There was just no physical way of us making the majority of the town understand that we could be getting $1 million a year from that crematorium.
Oh my goodness.
But a small local group of people did not want it, and
I
they
mean,
prevailed.
another basic facts, it's getting facts out, is that, I think I heard last year, the cemetery did twice as many cremations as they did burials. I would have never guessed that.
Those are in our numbers.
Yeah,
Those are in our numbers 5
Very.
years ago.
yeah, that's the
One
thing.
one of the things the bureaucracy suffers through is the mechanizations of the bureaucracy. And this is not a critique against open meeting law, because I think it's an excellent law that we have. Thing is, we have to do things accordingly. And open meetings, before we're going to be disseminating certain things, that's not just pure factual that Marin's able to put out on our behalf, but it's something that the committee's working on, it's going to take the whole committee. Whereas that blogger, sitting down in mom's basement, just typing away, can type anything and everything all day long. And that's the stuff that's getting out.
Yeah, it's true.
And I know the organization I work for right now is suffering through that and trying to figure out how, as an organization, you combat, if you will, what can be misinformation, or at least partial information, and not the official information. Or at least the information the organization wants to put out. So you got to anticipate we will fall into that predicament from time to time. Try as we might, someone will get information out, and we may be in a reactive mode. I'd ask that we just don't get frustrated about it and
We
deal with it
can't.
as best we can.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. John, anything else for this evening? Mike?
Nope.
Rich?
I'm good.
Mike? Paul? Melissa?
Great meeting. Thank you.
Aaron? Bob?
I think what you're gonna run into is the people that are against things they'll come out strong against it. The people that don't care about it, you won't hear from.
And we're passive.
Or even the people that are for it will just assume that the right point of view will carry the day
Yeah.
and won't necessarily be as vociferous in their support as someone who's trying to defeat something. That happens quite
And that-
often.
As they were talking about the crematorium, that the people that were for it sat in the back seat and didn't say anything. The people who were against it they were the vocal group.
So the challenge is to us is to engage the folks who do like to help, would like to see certain things happen, and bring them out.
Exactly.
That's the challenge.
Exactly. You gotta get more of the supporters of the programs to come out than, instead of sitting in the back seat and doing nothing.
Or form a persuasive and compelling argument so those who are against it today become for it tomorrow.
Exactly.
Good messaging and a lot of outreach. And
Eddie?
I'm all set.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you
and
coming out.
you're still gonna
today.
come back next meeting?
Yeah, well, next meeting I'm going to
Oh.
see Pedro's number retired, so I'll be there.
You're doing that? Oh, that's awesome.
All right, anybody like to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye. Look at this
Thanks,
ball.
folks, have a great evening.
8:30. This is like military clockwork.